everyone, and welcome to our series called Simply Multifamily. My name is Kieran Dillon, and I am a broker associate at KW Commercial, specializing in multifamily sales. I work with buyers and sellers of apartment and multifamily properties all throughout the greater Los Angeles and Inland Empire areas. The purpose of this series is to highlight issues that affect the owners of multifamily properties via market updates, investment highlights, and interviews with trusted professionals. Today, we will be talking with Pam Scamardo, the founder and managing partner of TPK Properties, a privately held multifamily investment company that acquires, manages, and renovates medium to large sized apartment properties along the West Coast. Welcome, Pam. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much, Karen, for the opportunity to be here with you today.
Of course. So tell us about your background, where you started, and how you ended up in multifamily investing.
Sure. So where I started was from a different background. I used to be an aerospace engineer for a good decade of my life. And I remember sitting at my desk in my cubicle, actually, with no windows, thinking to myself, I need to have a backup plan or a retirement plan. Couldn't rely on our 401k or the shrinking pension plans that the company was offering, and started researching other ways to grow my wealth with time. And I realized that I'm not a big fan of doing stocks or mutual funds and all that stuff. And I thought there's got to be something else. So back then, when Borders, the bookstore, was still around,
Yeah.
I used to peruse the bookstore all the time, and I'd be in the investing section, just kind of reading through books. And that's kind of where I stumbled across multifamily investing. And you can almost say the rest was history. I read the book called Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies, and that was what spoke to me, resonated with me. I was able to buy my first multifamily property in San Diego, basically in my backyard, and was able to quit my job in 2 to 3 years to be able to offset my engineering salary through that. So yeah, that's a little bit of my background. I've been doing it ever since, so it's been fun.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So you started with your first property, and now you specialize in generating passive income through syndications, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So can you provide a basic recap of how syndications work, and how investors who are interested in that type of investment could get involved in it, and kind of what your path was from like that first property to where you are now?
Sure. So let's start off with definitions. Syndications, honestly, is just a fancy term for describing a group of people coming together, pooling in their financial means, their money, for a common purpose, right? So in my case, that is to buy apartment complexes and then make sure that everyone gets a piece of their pie, so to speak, for what they put in. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do as a syndicator, which is a nice term for that. And to be honest, when I first started with my first deal, I didn't realize I was doing an informal syndication at the time. I partnered with 3 of my engineering coworkers at the time, and I said, hey guys, I would love to buy this 6-unit property. I ran the numbers on an Excel sheet, shared it with them with great excitement. And I said, hey, love to have you guys come in, because it would be great if we all could pool our money together to be able to afford a larger property, which would give us a bigger return rather than me going solo.
Right.
And that's how it all started. And I didn't know that at that time, that's what a syndication was. Now, fast forward to now, I get a lot of this common question is, how do people get involved? How do you start? I highly recommend partnering up with someone who's more experienced if you are a newbie investor, kind of learning the ropes, right? Observe how they operate, take the good, right? And maybe you can improve upon that when you form your own group. Some folks also decide to just partner up with their friends, or like coworkers like myself, or you can go in with family. But I think one of the key things when you're first starting off is to really work with someone who has the track record. So that way you don't kind of step into the common pitfalls along the way.
Got it. And so what geographic markets do you invest in, and why?
Another great question here. So I tend to stay mostly on the West Coast. And honestly, I don't have a very exciting reason. It's because I don't want to fly far from my family. So I have 2 young kiddos,
Mhm.
And to me, family is number one. So I don't like flying kind of across the country where I have to be gone for a couple days to do some due diligence on the property or maybe do a walkthrough. I'd rather be able to fly back within a day or maybe at most spend the night. So that's been my number one approach to looking at properties. I have seen a lot of deals that come my way from the Midwest or the East Coast, and there
Mhm.
are a lot of great deals out there. I just haven't had the chance to really want to venture. Let me rephrase it. I just don't want to go there just yet because my kids are still young and I miss them too much. But I think when they get older, I'm ready to throw down a little bit further.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a deal, like a broker comes to you with a deal, um, how and let's say you end up purchasing it. How many times are you actually going to the property, maybe before you purchase it, and then afterwards once you own it? How frequently are you visiting the property?
Okay, so from start to finish, assuming we acquire the property, right?
Right.
Yeah, so usually when a broker approaches me, it's either by phone call. A lot of the guys that I've networked with through the years, they now call me or they will email me, and I love our off-market deals, but you have to work your way through that, right, to
Mhm.
be on the top of their list.
Yeah.
Um, so once we have a chat, I get the lowdown on the property, the story. I see if it fits or not. Probably have a couple more chats with the broker before I book my first flight or drive out there for
Mhm.
like if it's in my backyard, it's easy to just drive by without trespassing, right? You
Mhm.
just drive by the neighborhood, get a feel to see if it kind of fits with your investment criteria. And then for those that may require a flight or a little bit of a hop and a skip, I kind of do the hardcore underwriting up front, meaning I make sure the numbers check all the boxes first before I invest on that plane flight to
Mhm.
go see the property. So that'll be like the first tour.
Yeah.
And then if we're in negotiations and things are going really well and we are actually opening escrow, then I'll be back out there again for our inspections, our walkthroughs, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I'll spend, as many days as needed. Usually it's about a day or two at most,
Mhm.
but I work like from the moment I land all the way till nighttime,
Yeah.
um, working through the property. So then after that, you get an opportunity to almost kind of do like a final walkthrough before close of escrow. Sometimes they don't let you, but that's okay. But that's when I go back out again. So I want to say overall 3 times when I'm evaluating a property and trying to secure it and to close escrow.
Got it. And then after you've purchased it, how frequently do you go back to just, visit the property?
So I like to surprise my property managers. They probably don't like the surprises, but it's always good to operate knowing that your boss can arrive at any moment. That way I could see how things are operating. So I try to go about once a quarter. Now, when the pandemic hit, that put everything to a halt.
Mhm.
So we're slowly easing up now, but I haven't visited any of the properties yet. What we've pivoted to doing is looking through like FaceTime or we'll Zoom so they can give me a tour
Mhm.
and all that fun stuff. But I am missing the property, so I can't wait. I just I want to feel a little bit more comfortable with the environment before I fly out to visit the properties again. But yeah, on an average, about maybe 1 to 4 times a year is where I'll schedule the visits, and they'll be back to back to back. So that way I batch them because I love the idea of work batching, and then I come back and then I don't have to worry about it for the next couple months.
Yeah.
And some of the main things I look at too, Karen, is I'm sorry, I'm backtracking here, but this is on like when I'm evaluating a deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, this is a common question I get asked a lot when I have my one-on-one personal strategy sessions is what is it that I look at? There are 3 things. I call them the 3 M's, management, money, and maintenance. And they're all interlinked. And what do I mean by management? It's how the property manager manages the property. Sometimes there's a lot of mismanagement going on, which then links to money, which
Mhm.
is the expenses. So you'll see a lot of misappropriate expenses going out where it could kind of be running on a leaner side, the
Mhm.
operations. And then again, it also links to the 3rd M, which is maintenance, because chances are if there's not enough money being saved for repairs, you're going to have a lot of deferred maintenance. So those are kind of the 3 things I kind of try to evaluate up front.
Okay, that's great. So you're doing all that up front. And for anybody who's listening who is thinking about investing out of state, it's good to know that kind of a benchmark figure, like for you, is visit the property a couple of times while you're in escrow, and then every quarter thereafter, don't just forget that you have this investment out there and that the property manager is going to be doing a good job. You definitely want to check in on that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, what are some mistakes or mishaps that newbies and even veteran investors should look to avoid?
Sure. And you just touched on that, Kieran. So, one of the main things, and I'll speak about out of state investments first,
Mhm.
is that people get excited, and that's great. You know, you close on a deal, you high five each other, and you're excited, and then you kind of forget about it in a sense that you don't stay on top of your property managers. That's one of the biggest mistakes newbie, and I want to say some seasoned investors also make this. For the seasoned investors, is because they're tired. They might get burnt out because
Mhm.
maybe their property management company is not the right fit for them, and they just don't know that or haven't had a chance to kind of let them go and bring in a new one.
Mhm.
So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see for out of state owners. Now, for in state, like if you're kind of around the corner and whatnot, I think the other mistake is just assuming that because of the current market in our area that we can never afford anything. That's absolutely not true, because that's where the power of syndications come into play. The more you can work together and the more you can partner with someone like yourself, Karen, where you bring
Mhm.
deals to the table to the expert operators like myself who can bring in a group of us, the better chances we'll have of closing a successful deal. So that's kind of, I guess it's more of a mindset. I wouldn't say it's a real mistake where it's
Mhm.
tangible, but it's a mindset. It ends up turning you off before you've kind of, turn over that stone,
Right,
so to speak. Hmm.
right. Um, okay, one question that I get asked a lot is how do you choose a good property manager? So I'm assuming that because you have properties in a wide geographic area, you have different property management firms. So, what are a few tips that you can provide for what to look for when you're vetting property managers?
Yes, that's good. I actually have this huge list of questions. So when I do like those the private personal strategy sessions, that's what I provide to my investors. But in a nutshell, some of the main things is that you before you even hire a property manager, I follow the rule of three. That
Mhm.
works best for me, and it always has.
Mhm.
Is that you interview three potential managers, and then you ask for three references. And within that, you ask if you can drive by or call those references, because that is the best way to find out how they operate, what type of properties they truly operate.
Mhm.
And then to find the right property managers, there's going to be a little bit of a leap of faith if there's a first time,
Yeah.
engagement, right? So you want to trust that gut. And I can't tell you how many times where I had seen, kind of like a resume where they looked really great on paper, had so many, so many accolades, and things just looked really great. They owned a lot, but I had this little inkling in the back of my mind that, hey, this might not be the right fit, but I still went with it
Mhm.
anyways.
Mhm.
Those are the moments where I had learning opportunities where I should have trusted my gut. So that's something I want to let everyone know out there, that yes, sometimes you may stumble, but the most important thing is you get back up again and know that your property manager is not permanent. You always have the power within you to switch it up, make changes, because if you're the owner operator, you are a steward of your investors' money. You have to do what is best for the whole group. And
Right.
so sometimes you have to approach it in a hard way of letting go property managers. But yes, so the key thing is definitely the power of three. Interview three, then compare to three, and also really vet their three references. I think that's really key to how they operate.
So there's kind of two common strategies that multifamily investors have. Some people like to buy a property and hold there. It's a long-term hold, right? And so they're using it for cash flow. And then others like to buy a property, fix it up, and flip it. Which camp would you say you fall in if you fall in one of those?
I think I'm more of a long-term hold kind of girl. Um, Me personally, the reason why is because I don't like the idea of flipping or like short-term exchanges, because let me wear my tax hat really quick. As
Mhm.
an enrolled agent, you get taxed up the wahoozy for short-term gains, right, on
Mhm.
stocks and stuff. And if you don't hold a property long enough to where it's considered long-term, you get taxed at a different rate. So for me, it's not beneficial. And also, I like the idea of hanging on for something much longer. That's why I
Mhm.
went into it multifamily real estate in general, it's a much slower moving vehicle, investment vehicle, if you choose it to be that way.
Mhm.
And then the stability that comes along with it when the property appreciates, when you're able to stabilize the property. I mean, that's just the best part of it. Like the other day, I had an investor call with one of the properties, and we started off at, they were making what, like 8%. Now they're making 22%. We've held the property for only 7 years. So
Wow.
that's an example of why, I mean, and I didn't promise them that. I just said,
Yeah.
hey guys, we're starting here.
Yeah.
We're going to go to double digits. That's my
Mm.
aim, but I never
Yeah.
guaranteed it.
Yeah.
And that's the most exciting thing that we can provide. Now, if you do the short-term flips, I get you can get to that quicker too, but to me, I just don't want to have to think about what's next. So it's a
Right.
personal preference, nothing wrong with that, but yeah, long-term hold kind of girl here.
And I imagine one of the factors for being successful with the long-term hold is keeping up with market rent, right? Um,
Yes.
that's a mistake that I see a lot on my end is severely below market rent on properties, and that, of course, directly impacts the value.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, in being in the state that we are, where there might be some policies in place that also prevent being able to increase to market rent at a, at a speedier time, makes
Mhm.
it tough as well. And probably coupled with the fact that you and I just talked about this a little bit with some moratoriums that are in place, really makes it tough for landlords. Absolutely. But yes, that is something that you always want to stay on top of, that even though if you're parking your money and you say, all right, I'm parked here, I'm going to ride it through, that's okay, but you still need to stay on top of that market rent. That's very key. You're right, Karen.
Yeah. So that kind of segues into my next question, which is, have you faced any challenges with the multifamily asset class during the pandemic? And if so, does it seem like it's getting better?
All right, so I'll address the first question, knock on wood. We have been doing great. We've been operating at between 96 to 98% occupancy. 96% was probably in the beginning when no one knew what was going on. I had maybe at most 3 tenants who really had a challenge of not paying rent, and
Mhm.
maybe some might have chosen to kind of work the system, so to speak. But we're one of the lucky few operators, and I'm thankful for that. What made us kind of set the precedent, or create a difference with others, is that when the pandemic hit and when there was that massive shutdown, we were boots to the ground running, meaning I had my property managers go literally talk to every tenant,
Mhm.
safety first though, with distance, but really checking in on, hey, what's your situation? How can we help? Connecting them with, there was local resources, state resources, and federal resources going on. So we were working with every single case. And I know that can sound cumbersome and tedious to operators,
Yeah.
but I think that's really what helped us out, because we were at the forefront with them. We worked with them to help them out. And there were very few tenants who might have like said, hey, we can't afford to pay this month. Can we pay next month? And we worked out a payment plan with them. So that was something that we saw, and it was very definitely scary for all parties. We were very upfront with them. We told them, hey, it's scary for us too, because even if we're landlords, it doesn't mean that we don't have bills and things to pay, right? This is all a very symbiotic system. We're all here to help each other out in this business. And then compared to some of my colleagues, for example, I had a colleague who invested in Arkansas, and he lost 50% of his tenants. And that's, so that was tough. And so what I saw happening was like a bunch of us investors who've been in the business for a while, really reaching out of like, hey, what can you do? What have you done with your properties? What sort of laws are in your state? What can we apply, and to help each other. So the collaboration and the contribution to one another, I thought was very beautiful seeing, but it's definitely been tough for a lot. But knock on wood, we're still doing great. And we've always been at market rent. So leading up to the pandemic, I think we have set ourselves up
Mhm.
to be successful during this time. So I can't speak for everyone else, but that's what's going on right now for all of our properties. We actually have a wait list. So yeah.
Great. So, it seems like the theme that's emerging is a lot of people think of multifamily investing as passive, but really, if you want to get maximum returns and be successful, it's an active thing. You have to be engaged if you want to get the most out of it. Probably like with most things in life.
Correct. You have to work hard to really get the return that you'd like. Now, I will say that when you go into multifamily investing, there's basically two paths to choose, right? Most of us, we need to be active. Like if I'm the syndicator, I'm definitely active day in, day out. But there are some investors who don't mind. They'll park their money with myself, for example, and say,
Mhm.
hey, I'm with you on this deal. Just tell me what you need, but I want this return. And they don't care. So there's that as well. But you're right, Karen, is if you are going to be buying, you're going to be working like with talented brokers like yourself, you really need to be on top of the game, because you can only, as a broker, you can only help so much by bringing deals to the table. It's up to us to make astute investments and continue to manage that beyond, such that whether the exit strategy is to set it up for resale or to hang on for a very long time or refi cash out. I mean, so there are many ways to exit a deal, but you're right. You have to be active and kind of thinking about that, especially when you're taking care of, your property management team, your tenants as your family, and your investors as well.
Right. So I have people reach out to me all the time who are at the beginning stages of investing, or they've heard of it and they just want to learn more about it. Do you have any resources for newbies, and then maybe also for veterans, where they can kind of go to either learn about multifamily investing or brush up on some of the basics?
Sure. Towards the end of last year, this was a passion project of mine that I wanted to launch, and we decided to pivot and do it all online. So I've launched a website to provide free, high quality education for multifamily investing. It's at www.letsgocreatewealth.com. There's a whole slew of resources there to help you at any stage of your investment career, from beginners to just those brushing up again, or maybe those looking to, for example, we had a recent webinar on 1031 exchanges, how to use that, or what is that can
Mhm.
help you to exchange into something bigger, to trade up without getting taxed. So there's many topics, from that type of complex one to something as simple as, hey, what is a good podcast to listen to when you have some time and you just want to learn basics. And we've also, we write blog articles all the time as well, and we welcome guest writers too. So my mission for this was to have it be kind of like your one-stop shop as a launching point when you're starting off with multifamily investing, and then you kind of continue on from there. And we're here to help connect anyone with all the experts in the field. So when you guys go on there and you look at the advisors page, you'll see that there's a bunch of people there with different backgrounds, and they come highly referred. And they're people that I have personally worked with or have known through
Mhm.
the industry, such like yourself. And I think that's kind of key. That's the value we provide to people, because a lot of times people are looking for those connections. So for example, when I first started off, I was so lost, and I was like, okay, where can I read more books?
Mhm.
We have a page for that. Where
Yep.
can I listen to YouTube videos? We have a page for that. The next was, who can I connect for like legal entities and stuff? We have someone for that. Or who's a great broker in this area? We have someone for that too. So we're here to help. And that's one of the things that I'm just very passionate about. And honestly, Karen, we're working towards like actually having an in-person course in the state of California. So whenever that launches, like would love to have you be our guest speaker as well. So we can kind of just come together and collaborate and help newbies and veterans kind of continue to learn. Because if there's something we've all learned about this pandemic, is that we really can't predict the future. And it's always good to keep continuing to be resilient and to work with each other and to kind of learn new things along the way, right? We now operate things so differently than before.
Right. Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. And I often go to your website for all the amazing resources. So thank you for putting that together. It's great. Um,
Thank you.
so, in closing, what is one tip that you can share with listeners who are looking to invest in multifamily investing?
Okay, so if you're a beginner, I would say invest in your own knowledge. So sign up for what you need. I can't tell you what you need to learn, but you know yourself. So that's the one thing, is investing in your own knowledge, whatever you need help on, whether that's, signing up for a coach, signing up for a one-on-one strategy session, or buying a book to read and really going through it page by page and taking notes. Do what you need to do for your own knowledge, because that brain of yours is going to take you really far. Now, for the veterans, if you're looking for a change, and I think this is probably the hardest part, is the mindset of try considering working with a new set of people, maybe new set of friends or something, so you two can, you three or how many, can come together to buy another property and continue on with your investment strategy.
Awesome. That was great. Thank you so much. And I see that your website is there. So again, that's www.letsgocreatewealth.com. So for anybody who has questions or wants to take a look at those resources, please do visit the website. It's a fantastic place to get started, and also to brush up on topics that you might not have kept up with. So that's pretty much it. Anything else you'd like to add, Pam?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and feel free to reach out to my team anytime. If you have any random questions, I just want to put it out there to the world that we all have to start somewhere. So there's no such thing as a silly question. We're here to help.
Great. And is the best way for listeners to get in touch with you through your website, or do you prefer some other mode of communication?
Yeah, probably through the website. So the email address is info@letsgocreatewealth.com, and then our team will help you out.
Great. Thank you so much, Pam.
Thanks, Karen. You have a great day.
You too.